This play is called Our Town. It was written by Mrs. Thornton Wilder, here produced and directed by Mrs. Steve Broyles. In it, you will see Miss Darnell, Miss Deaton, Miss Zimmerman, Mr. Natalie, Mr. Grice, Mr. Simona Shafee, and many others, too numerous to mention. The name of our town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just over the line from Massachusetts. Latitude 42 degrees, 40 minutes, longitude 70 degrees, 37 minutes. The first act shows a day in our town. The day is May 7th, 1901. Time is just before dawn. Yeah, just about. The sky is starting to show a few streaks of light over there in the east. The morning star always looks wonderful bright the second before it has to go, doesn't it? Well, now I'll show you how our town lies. Now, up here's Main Street, cut across it over there on the left, railroad tracks. Across the tracks is Polish Town. You know, foreign people who come here to work in the mill, a couple of Canuck families, and the Catholic Church. The Congregational Church is over here, Presbyterians across the street, Methodist and Unitarian are over there, and Baptist is down in the hollow by the river. Next to the post office here is Town Hall, jail's in the basement. William Jennings Bryan once made a speech from these very steps here. All along Main Street's a row of stores, horse blocks and hitching posts in front of them. First automobile's going to come along in about 5 years. Long bank of Cartwright, our richest citizen. Lives up there in the big white house on the hill. Now, here's the grocery store and Mr. Morgan's drugstore. Most everybody manages to look to those two stores once a day or so. And this is our doctor's house, Doc Gibbs's. And here's the back door, and there's a couple of trellises, and Mrs. Gibbs's garden. Corn, peas, beans, hollyhock, heliotrope, a lot of burdock. In those days, our newspaper came out twice a week, the Grover's Corners Sentinel. And this is Editor Webb's house. And this is Mrs. Webb's garden. It's a lot like Mrs. Gibbs's, only it's got a lot of sunflowers, too. Right here is our big butternut tree. It's a nice town, you know what I mean? Nobody very remarkable at the canal, as far as we know. Earliest dates now up in our cemetery on the tombstones, say 1660, 1670. Where there are Grovers and Cartwrights and Gibbses and Hershey's. Same names are around here now. As I said, it's early morning. The only lights on in town are across the tracks, where a Polish mother's just had twins, and in the Joe Crowell house, where Joe Jr. is getting ready to deliver the morning paper, and in the depot, where Shorty Hawkins is just getting ready to flag down the 5:45 for Boston. There she is, right on time. But naturally, out in the country, life's been on for some time, what with milkings and so forth going on. Town folks sleep late. So, another day's begun. There's Doc Gibbs coming down Main Street now, coming back in that baby case. And there's Mrs. Gibbs, come downstairs to get her breakfast. Doc Gibbs died in 1930. New hospital's named after him. Mrs. Gibbs died first, and a long time ago, in fact. She went out to visit her daughter, Rebecca, who married an insurance man in Canton, Ohio. Died there. Pneumonia. But her body was brought back here. She's up in our cemetery now, an old mess of Gibbses and Hershey's. Of course, she was Julie Hershey before she married Doc Gibbs in the Congregational Church over there. In our town, we like to know the facts about everybody. Oh, and there's Mrs. Webb, come downstairs to get her breakfast, too. And there's Doc Gibbs himself. Got that call about Polish Town at 1:30 this morning. And there's Joe Crowell delivering Mr. Webb's sentinel.
Oh, morning, Doc.
Morning, Joe.
You want your paper now?
Yes, I'll take it.
Anybody been sick, Doc?
No, it's a pair of twins somewhere in Polish Town. Oh, Joe, I see your teacher, Miss Foster's getting married.
Yes, sir. Over to a feller in Concord.
I declare. And how do you fellas feel about that?
Well, of course, it's none of my business, but I feel if one starts out to be a teacher, they ought to stay that way.
Oh, how's your knee, Joe?
Just fine, sir. I try not to think about it too much. But just like you said, it always tell me when it's gonna rain.
What to tell you today? Is it gonna rain, Joe?
No, sir.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Didn't you ever make a mistake before, Joe?
No, sir.
Want to tell you something about that boy, Joe Crowell there. Joe was awful bright. Graduated head of his class at our high school here. He got a scholarship to go study at Boston MIT, that is. Graduated head of his class there, too. Going to be a great engineer, Joe was. And then the war broke out, and he died in France. All that education for nothing. What quarrel he had, big fight with the Germans, we don't quite know to this day. But the time it seemed perfectly clear to us.
Get out, Bessie.
And there's Howie Newsom delivering the milk. What's the matter with you?
Morning, Doc.
Morning, Howie.
Somebody sick?
No, just a pair of twins over to Miss Gorslowski's.
Twins, eh? This town's getting bigger every year.
What do you think, Howie? Is it gonna rain tonight?
No, fine day. It'll burn through.
Come on, Bessie.
Hello, Bessie. How old is she, Howie?
Going on 17. Bessie here, all mixed up about the route. Ever since Lockhart stopped taking that quart of milk every day. He wants to leave McCoy just the same. He stole me the whole trip.
Morning, Howie.
Morning, Miss Gibbs. Doc's just coming down the street.
Is he? Seems like you're late today.
Hi, something wrong with the separator. Don't know what it was. Doc?
Howie?
Children, time to get up.
Come on, Bessie.
George, Rebecca. Everything all right, Frank?
Yes, I'm Claire. Easy as kittens.
Bacon will be ready in a minute. Sit down and drink your coffee. Now you can catch a couple hours sleep this morning, can't you?
I'm afraid Miss Wentworth's coming by at 11. Guess I know what it's about, too. Her stomach ain't what it ought to be.
All told, you won't get more than 3 hours sleep. Frank Gibbs, I don't know what's going to become of you. I do wish you could go off someplace and get a good rest. I think it'd do you good. Emily! Time to get up! Wally! 7 o'clock! I declare, you gotta speak to George. Seems to me like something's come over him lately. He's no help to me at all, and I'm gonna get him to cut me some wood.
Was he sassy to you?
Nah, he just whines. All he ever thinks about is that baseball. George! Rebecca! Time for breakfast! George!
George, look sharp!
Yes, Pa.
Don't you hear your mother calling you?
Wally! Wally, you'll be late for school!
I guess I'll go up and take 40 winks.
Wally? Wally, you wash yourself good or I'll come up there and do it myself.
Mom, what dress shall I wear?
Don't make a noise. Your father just got home and needs to sleep. And I washed now in blue gingham for you special.
Oh, Mom, I hate that dress.
Hush up with you.
Every day I go to school just like a sick turkey.
Now, Rebecca, you always look very nice.
Ah, turkey's gonna silk me.
I'll come up there and slap both of you. That's what I'll do.
We got a mill in our town, too. Hear it? Makes blankets. Cartwright's built it. It brung them a fortune.
Oh, children, now I won't have it. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and I won't have you gobbling it down like wolves. They'll stunt your growth, that's fact. Wally, put away that book at the table.
But Ma, by 10 o'clock I gotta know all about Canada.
You know the rules as well as I do. No books at the table. As for me, I'd rather have my children healthy than bright.
I'm both, Mama. You know I am. I'm the brightest girl in school for my age. I have a wonderful memory.
Eat your breakfast.
Now, talk to your father about it once he's rested, but it seems to me that 25 cents a week is enough for a boy of your age.
Oh, Ma, I got a lot of things to buy.
Strawberry phosphates, that's what you spend it on.
I don't see how Rebecca comes to have so much money. She's got more than $1.
I've been saving it up gradual.
Now, Rebecca, I think it's all right to spend some every now and then.
Mama, do you know what I love most in the world? Do you? Money.
Eat your breakfast.
There's the first bell. I gotta go.
Walk fast so you don't have to run. Oh, Wally, put up your pens.
Now, tell Miss Foster I sent her my best congratulations. You remember that?
Yes, Ma.
It was real nice, Rebecca. Now, get up your feet. fight. That's all you ever do. You chick chick chick. Where'd you come from? You don't belong to me. Yeah, chick 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 chick. Don't bother. Nobody's gonna hurt you. Good morning, Myrtle. How's your cold?
Still get that tickling feeling in my throat. I was talking to Charles earlier as to whether or not I'd go to choir rehearsal this evening.
Have you tried singing over your voice?
Yes, but I can't do that and manage to stay on the key. Figured as I was resting myself, I'd string some of these beans.
Look here, let me help you. Beans make good this year.
I figured I'd put up 40 quarts if it kills me. The children always say that they hate them, but they seem to get them down just the same.
Now, Myrtle, I gotta tell you something, because if I don't tell somebody, I'll burst.
What? Julia Gibbs?
Did one of those secondhand furniture men from Boston come see you last Friday?
No.
Well, he came and saw me. And at first I thought that he was a patient looking for Dr. Gibbs. And he wormed his way in my parlor, and Julia Gibbs, he offered me $350 for a Grandmother Wetler's highboy.
What? Julia
He
Gibbs?
did? That old thing? Why, it was so big I didn't even know where to put it. And I almost gave it to Cousin Hester Wilcox.
Well, you're going to take it, aren't you?
I don't know.
You don't know? $350 and you're not going to take it? What's gotten into you?
Well, if I could get the doctor to take the money and go off on a trip, I'd take it like that. You know, Myrtle, it's always been the dream of my life to go see Paris, France. I don't know. I know it sounds crazy, but I've always been promising myself that if I ever got the chance,
And what's the doctor say about that?
you know how he is. I haven't heard a serious word out of him in years. No, he said, might make him discontented with Grover's Corner, just go traipsing about Europe. Better leave well enough alone, he says. You know, every 2 years he takes a trip to the battlefields of the Civil War, and that's enough treat for anybody, he says.
Well, just knowing that Dr. Gibbs is one of the best experts in the country just makes Mr. Webb despair.
It's a fact. Dr. Gibbs is never so happy as when he's pacing out those fields. Myrtle, the times that I've been to those fields, looking at every bush and pacing it all out like who's going to buy the place.
Well, all I know is if that second-hand man is really willing to buy it, you sell it. And then you'll see Paris. You just drop little hints from now and then. That's how I got to see the Atlantic Ocean, you know.
Well, I don't know. No, I'm sorry I mentioned it. It's just, it seems to me that once in your life, you have to go to a country where they don't speak any English and don't even want to.
Thank you very much, ladies. Now we'll skip ahead a few hours. But first, I think we want kind of a scientific account of our town. So I've asked Professor Willard at our State University to come sketch in a few details. Professor Willard! Now, may I introduce Professor Willard of our State University? Just a few brief notes. Thank you, Professor. I'm afraid our time is limited.
Grover's Corners. Let me see. Yes. Grover's Corners lies on the old Pliocene granite of the Appalachian Range. I may say it is some of the oldest land in the world. We're very proud of that around here. Of course, there are some more recent outcroppings. Sandstone showing through a shelf of Devonian basalt and some vestiges of Mesozoic shale, but these are comparatively new, perhaps 200 or 300 million years. Some highly interesting fossils have been found, I may say unique fossils, 2 miles north of the Peckham Farm, in Silas Peckham's cow pasture. These may be seen in the museum at the university at any time. That is, at any reasonable time. Shall I read to you some of Professor Gruber's notes on the meteorological situation?
I'm afraid we don't have time for all that, Professor. But we might have a few words on the history of man here.
Oh, anthropological data.
Yes?
Early Amerindian stock, Cotahatchee tribes, no evidence before the 10th century of this era, now entirely disappeared. Oh, possible traces in 3 families. migration in the early part of the 17th century of English bronchiocephalic blue-eyed stock. Since then, some Slav and Mediterranean.
And the population, Professor?
Then town limits 2,640.
Just a moment, Professor.
Oh yes, population at the moment is 2,642. The postal district brings in 507 more, for a total of 3,149. Mortality, birth rate, constant. By McPherson's gauge, 6.432.
Thank you, Professor Willard. I'm sure we're all very much obliged.
Oh, not at all, sir. Not at all.
And now the political and social report. Editor Webb. Oh, Mr. Webb?
Oh, he'll be down in a minute. He cut his head whilst eating an apple.
Thank you, Mrs. Webb.
Charles! Charles, everyone's waiting.
Mr. Webb is the publisher and editor of the Grover's Corner Sentinel. It's our local newspaper, you know.
I don't need to tell you that we're run here by a board of selectmen. All males vote at the age of 21. Women vote indirect. We're lower middle class, sprinkling of professional men, and 10% of literate laborers. Politically, we're 86% Republican, 6% Democrat, 4% Socialist, rest indifferent. Religiously, we're 85% Protestant, 12% Catholic, rest indifferent.
Have you any comments, Mr. Webb?
Very ordinary town, if you ask me. Probably a little better behaved than most. A lot duller, too. But our young people here seem to like it well enough. 90% of them graduating from high school settle down right here to live, even after they've been away to college.
Now, is there anyone in the audience who would like to ask Mr. Webb any questions?
Is there much drinking in Grover's Corners?
Well, ma'am, I don't know what you'd call much. Saturday night, the farmhands meet down in Ellery Greenoff's stable and holler some. And we've got one or two town drunks, but always having remorses every time an evangelist comes to town. No, liquor ain't a regular thing in the home here, except in the medicine cabinet. Right good for a snake bite, you know. Always was.
Is there no one in
Speak up, will you, so we can all hear you.
Is there no one in the town aware of social injustice and industrial inequality?
Oh, yes, everybody is. Something terrible. Seems like we're all talking about who's rich and who's poor.
Then why don't you do something about it?
Well, I don't know. I guess we're all hunting, like everybody else, for a way that the diligent and sensible can rise to the top, and the lazy and quarrelsome sink to the bottom. But it ain't easy to find. In the meantime, we do all we can to take care of those who can't help themselves. Those that can, we leave alone. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Webb?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Webb, is there any culture or love of beauty in Grover's Corners?
Well, ma'am, there ain't much. Not in the sense you mean. Come to think of it, there's some girls that play piano at high school commencement, but they ain't happy about it. No, there isn't much culture. But maybe this is the place to tell you that we got a lot of pleasures of a kind here. We like the sun coming up over the mountain in the morning. And we all notice a good deal about the birds. We pay a lot of attention to them. We watch the change of the seasons. Yes, everybody knows about them. But those other things, you're right, ma'am. There ain't much. There's Robinson Crusoe, and in the Bible, Handel's Largo, we all know that, and Whistler's Mother. Those are about as far as we go.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Now we'll get back to the town. It's 2 o'clock. All 2,642 have had their luncheons, and all the dishes have been washed. Children have gone back to school. There's a buzzing and a humming coming from the school buildings. On Main Street, there's a row of carriages, horses sleeping at the hitching posts. There's an early afternoon calm about the town. You remember what it's like. Doc Gibbs is over there in his office, tapping people and making them say, ah. There's Editor Webb, over there cutting his lawn. 1 man in 10 thinks it's a privilege to push his own lawnmower.
I can't, Lois. I've got to go home and help my mother. I promised.
Walk simply, Emily. Who do you think you are today?
Oh, Papa, you're terrible. One minute you tell me to stand up straight, the next minute you call me names. I just don't listen to you.
Golly, I never got a kiss from such a great lady before.
Oh, awfully sorry, Miss Forrest.
Go out and play in the fields, young man. You got no business playing baseball on Main Street.
Oh, hello, Emily.
Hello.
That was an awfully fine speech you made in class today.
Oh, well, I was really ready to make a speech on the Monroe Doctrine, but at the last minute, Miss Cochran made me talk about the Louisiana Purchase. I've worked an awful long time on both of them.
Yeah. Gee, Emily, it's funny. At nights from my window up there, I can just see you in your window doing your homework.
Why, can you?
Yeah. You certainly do stick to it, Emily. I don't see how you can sit still that long. Guess you must like school.
I always feel it's something you have to go through.
Yeah.
I don't mind it much, though it passes the time.
Yeah. Emily, I was thinking we might want to work out some sort of telegraph system for my window to yours. And every once in a while you can give me a hint or two on one of those algebra problems. Oh, not the answers. Of course not, Emily. Maybe just a hint.
Oh, I guess hints are allowed, so if you get stuck, George, just whistle to me and I'll give you some hints.
Well, you're just naturally bright, I guess.
I always figure it's the way a person's born.
Yeah, but my Uncle Luke says that during the summer I can come and work on his farm if I like, and I can just eventually have it.
You mean the house and everything?
Yeah. Well, I better be getting going to baseball. Goodbye, Emily.
So long, George.
Goodbye, Mrs. Webb.
Good afternoon, George.
Goodbye, Emily.
So long, George.
Emily can help me string these beads for the winter. My, that George Gibbs let himself have a real conversation, didn't he? Well, he's just growing up. How old would George be?
I don't know.
Let's see, he must be at least 16 or 17.
Mama, I made a speech in class today. I was very good.
You must recite it for your father at supper. What was it about?
The Louisiana Purchase. It's like silk off a spool. I'm gonna make speeches my whole life. Mama, are these big enough?
Try to get them a little bit bigger if you can.
Mama, will you answer me a question serious?
Seriously, dear, not serious.
Seriously, will you?
Of course.
Mama, am I good looking?
Yes, of course you are. Both my children got very good features. I'd be ashamed if they hadn't.
Oh, Mama, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, am I pretty?
I've already told you, yes. You have a nice, young, pretty face. And that's enough of that. I've never heard of such foolishness.
Mama, you never tell us the truth about anything.
I am telling you the truth.
Mama, were you pretty?
Yes, if I do say it. I was the prettiest girl in town next to Mamie Cartwright.
Oh. Well, you've got to say something about me. Am I pretty enough to get people interested in me?
Oh, Emily, you make me tired now. Stop it. You're pretty enough for all normal purposes. Now come along and bring that home with you.
No help at all.
Now is a good time to tell you, I think, that they're building a new bank in Grover's Corners. Had to go to Vermont for the marble, sorry to say. And they asked a friend of mine what they should put in the cornerstone for people to dig up 1,000 years from now. Of course, we're putting in a copy of the New York Times and Mr. Webb's Sentinel. We're kind of interested in this because some scientific fellows have invented a new kind of glue, a silicate glue, that'll make all that read material keep 1,000, 2,000 years. So putting in a copy of the Bible and the Constitution of the United States and William Shakespeare's plays. But what do you say, folks? What do you think? You know, Babylon once had 2 million people in it. Yet all we know about is the name of the kings and some weak contract and the sale of slaves. And yet, every night, father came home from work and family sat down to supper. Smoke went up the chimney, same as here. I mean, even in ancient Greece and Rome, all we know about the real lives of the people is what we've been able to piece together from some joking poems and the comedies they wrote for the theater back then. So, I'm going to have a copy of this play put in the cornerstone so that people 1,000 years from now will know a little bit about how we really were. More than the Treaty of Versailles and Lindbergh fight, anyway. So, 1,000 years from now, this is the way we were in the provinces north of New York at the beginning of the 20th century. This is the way we were in our growing up, in our marrying, in our living, and in our dying. Well, it's evening. The choir practice going on at the Congregational Church over there. Children are out doing their schoolwork. Days winding down. Tired of the clock.
All right. Now try it again. And remember, ladies, music came in the world to bring pleasure. Try it once more. Softer? Softer! Look here. Get it out of your head that music's only good when it's loud. You leave loudness to the Methodist. Couldn't beat them even if you tried. Now try it again. Tenors!
Psst. Emily.
Hello.
Hello.
My eyes in the moonlight terrible. I can't work at all.
Emily, what'd you get for number 3?
Which?
The third.
George, that's the easiest one of them all.
I don't see it. Well, could you give me a hint?
I'll tell you one thing. The answer is in yards.
In yards? What do you mean?
In square yards.
Oh. Square yards.
Yes, George? Don't you see?
Yeah.
In square yards of wallpaper.
Oh, square yards of wallpaper. Thanks, Emily.
You're welcome. My eyes in the moonlight terrible. The choir practice going on. I think that if you hold your breath, you can hear the train all the way to Connecticut. Do you hear it?
Huh. What do you know?
Well, I'd better get back and try to work.
Oh, good night, Emily.
Good night, George.
That's better, but ain't no miracle. Before I forget, how many of you are going to be able to come this Tuesday and sing at Fred Hershey's wedding? Show your hands. That'll be fine. That'll be right nice. Now, art thou weary, art thou languid? Ladies and gentlemen, it is a question. Make it talk.
George, can you come downstairs a minute?
And remember this Sunday
Yes,
to take
Ma.
it real soft at the end of the second verse and sort of die out at the end. Ready? Go.
Make yourself comfortable, George. It's only take a minute. George, how old are you?
Oh, I'm 16, almost 17.
And what do you want to do when school's over?
Why, you know, Pop. I want to be a farmer on Luke's farm.
You'll be willing, will you, to get up early every morning and feed and water the stock and hoe and hay all day?
Of course, Pop. What do you mean?
George, I was in my office this morning and I heard a noise. You guess what that was, George? It was your mother chopping wood in the backyard. Yes, you see your mother getting up early every morning and fixing your meals all day long and washing and ironing your clothes. And she still has to go into the back and chop the wood. Guess she just got tired of asking you, so that'd be easier for her to do it herself. And you sit here and eat her meals and wear the clothes she keeps nice for you and play baseball like she's some hired girl and keep around you don't like very much. All I had to do was call your attention to it. Here's hanging, George. George, I've decided to raise your spending money by 25 cents a week. Not, of course, for chopping wood for your mother, because that's a sort of gift that you give to her. Just because you're a growing boy, and, well, I figure there must be lots you can find to spend on it.
Thanks, Pop.
Let's see. Tomorrow's payday. Yeah, you can count on it. Huh. Expect Rebecca will think she ought to have some more, too. Where could your mother be? My practice never gets out this late.
It's only 8:30, Pop.
Or why she's in that old choir anyhow. I have much more voice than an old crow. Your mother traipsing the streets around this hour. Well, do you think it's about time you retired, George?
Yes, Pop.
Good night, Martha. Good night, Mr. Foster.
I'll tell Mr. Webb. I know he'll want to put it in the paper.
My, it's late.
Good night, Hannah.
Real nice choir practice, wasn't it? Myrtle Webb, look at that moon, will ya? Potato weather for sure.
Well, naturally, I didn't want to say anything about it in front of the others. But now that we're alone, really, it's the worst scandal that ever was in this town.
What?
Simon Stimpson.
Now, Luella.
But Julia, to have an organist of a church drink and drunk year after year.
Luella.
Julia, you know he was drunk tonight.
Luella, we all know about Simon Simpson, and we all know about the troubles he's been through. And Dr. Ferguson knows too. And if Dr. Ferguson keeps him in there on his job, the only thing the rest of us can do is just not to notice.
Not to notice? But it's getting worse.
No, it isn't, Luella. In fact, it's getting better. I've been in that choir twice as long as you have, and it doesn't happen nearly so often. My. I hate to go to bed on nights like tonight. Oh, Percy said better hurry. Children will be up all hours. Good night, Luella. Julia.
Good night, Myrtle. You can make it home safe, can't you?
Oh, it's his brightest day. I can see Mr. Stone scowling out the window now. You'd think we've been to a dead zone of info carry on. Good night, Julia.
Good night, Myrtle.
See you on Sunday.
See you then. We had a real good time.
You're late enough.
Why, Frank? It ain't you later than usual.
You gossiping on the corner with a bunch of hens.
Don't be grouchy. Come out and smell my heliotrope in the moonlight. Come on. Isn't that wonderful? And what did you do all the time I was away?
Oh, I read as usual. Oh, what were the ladies gossiping about tonight?
Believe me, there's a lot to gossip about.
Oh, Simon Stimpson far gone, was he?
It's the worst I've ever seen him. Frank, how's that going to end? Dr. Ferguson can't forgive him forever.
Guess I know more about Simon Stimpson's affairs than most people in this town. People just ain't made for small town living. I don't know how it's going to end. Well, the best thing for us to do is just to leave it alone. Well, get in.
No, not yet. Frank, I'm worried about you.
What are you worried about?
I think it's my duty to make sure you get a real rest and change. And if I get that legacy, I'm going to insist on
Now,
it.
Julia, there's no sense in going over all this again.
Frank, you're just unreasonable.
Julia, it's getting getting late. Next thing you know, you'll catch cold. I gave George a piece of my mind. You'll have your wood chopped for a while, and you went. No. Head right up.
Oh, it's so much to pick up since like. Now, Frank, this Fairchild always locks the front door. Every night, all people up in that place down there.
They're all getting cityfied. That's a problem with them. They got nothing fit to burgle, and everybody knows it.
Get out of here, Rebecca. There's no room for one at this window.
Well, let me just look a minute.
Use your own window.
I did, but there's no moon there. George, do you know what I think? Do you? I think the moon's getting nearer and nearer. And one day it'll be a big explosion.
Rebecca, you don't know anything. If the moon were getting nearer, then all the people that stay up nights with telescopes would see it first. It'd be in all the newspapers.
George, is the moon shining on South America, Canada, and half the whole world?
I suppose so.
It's 9:30. Constable Warren should be coming out any minute now. Ah, there he is. Come to check a few doors on Main Street. Fine. Yes, Mr. Webb, come home. I've put his newspaper to bed.
Good evening, Bill.
Evening, Mr. Webb.
Quite a moon.
Yep.
All quiet tonight?
Simon Simpson's rolling around a bit, so Oswald's going out to hunt for him again, and I looked the other way. There he is now.
Good evening, Simon. Town seems to have settled down for the night pretty well. Yes, good evening. Most of the town settled down for the night, Simon. Guess we'd better do the same. Can I walk a long ways with you? Good night.
Not sure how it's going to end, Mr. Webb.
Well, you've seen a peck of trouble, one thing after another. Oh, Bill, if you see my boy smoking any cigarettes, just give him a word, will you? He thinks a lot of you, Bill.
I don't think he smokes no cigarettes, Mr. Webb. At least weighs no more than 2 or 3 a year.
I hope not. Good night, Bill. Who's that up there? Is that you, Mabel?
No, it's me, Papa.
Why aren't you in bed?
Oh, I don't know. I just can't sleep yet. The moonlight's so terrible. And Miss Gibbs heliotrope. Go on, smell them.
Yes. Haven't any troubles on your mind, have you, Emily?
Troubles? Papa, no.
Well, don't let your mother catch you.
I never told you about that letter Jane Coppet got from her minister when she was sick. He wrote Jane a letter, and on the envelope it said, Jane Coppet, Coppet Farm, Grover's Corners, Sutton County, New Hampshire, United States of America.
Oh, what's funny about that, Rebecca?
But listen, I'm not finished. United States of America, continent of North America, Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the solar system, the mind of God. That's what it said on the envelope.
Oh, what do you know?
Yep, and the postman wrote it just the same.
What do you know?
That's the end of Act 1. Summers and winters have cracked the mountains a little bit more, and the rain's brought down some of the dirt. A couple of babies that weren't even born before have started talking regular sentences already, and a number of people who thought they was right young and spry have found that they can bound up a flight of steps like they used to, without their heart clutching a little. Yes, all that can happen in 1,000 days. Nature's been pushed and contrived in other ways, too. A number of young people fell in love and got married. Yes, mountain got fitted away a few fractions of an inch. Over 1 million gallons of water have passed by the mill. Here and there, a couple of new houses have gone up under some roofs. Most everybody in the world gets married. You know what I mean? There aren't hardly any exceptions in our town. most everybody climbs into their graves married. First act is called the daylight. Second act is called love and marriage. So 3 years later, it's July the 7th, 1904, just after high school commencement. That's the time most of our young people jump up and get married. Seems they think that as soon as they pass their final examinations in solid geometry and Cicero's orations, that they're fit to be married. It's early morning, only this time it's been raining. It's been pouring and thundering. Mrs. Gibbsgard and Mrs. Webb's here, drenched. All those beanpoles, tea vines, drenched. All yesterday over on Main Street, the rain looked like curtains being blown along. Don't know. May begin again in a minute. And 5:10 train to Boston is just passing by this moment. Right on time. There's Mrs. Gibbs and Mrs. Webb. Come down to get breakfast as if this were just an ordinary day. I don't have to point out to the women in my audience that these two ladies they see before them, these two ladies cook 3 meals a day, one of them for 20 years, the other one for 40, and no summer vacation. They raised 2 children apiece, washed, cleaned the house, and never let us break down. Never felt themselves hard used either. It's like what one of them Middle West poets once wrote. You got to love life to have life, and you gotta have life to love life. It's what they call a vicious circle.
Yeah, Bessie.
There's Howie Newsom and Bessie delivering the milk. And there's Cy Crowell delivering the morning paper, just like his brother before him.
Well, morning, Howie.
Morning, Cy. Anything in the papers I ought to know?
Well, nothing much. Except we're about to lose the best baseball pitcher Grover's Corners ever had.
I reckon he is.
And all he'll be doing is pitching hay.
Whoa, Bessie. Guess I can stop and talk if I want to.
He can hit too. And run bases.
Mighty fun ball player.
I just don't see how someone with that much talent could give it all up just to get married. Would you have, Howie?
Can't tell, Cy. Never had no talent that way.
Howie,
Hello, Phil. You're up early?
River's been rising all night. See if there's anything I can do to prevent a flood.
Cy Cry here. It's all broke up about George Gibbs' retiring from baseball.
Sir, that's the way it is. In 84 side, we had a player. I think George Gibbs could have touched him. He had Hank Todd. Went up to Maine to Will Parson. Mighty fine ball player. Howie, how's the weather seem to you?
It ain't bad. I think maybe it'll clear up for good. Good. Morning, Miss Gibbs.
Oh, morning, Howie.
Too bad about this weather. It's been raining so hard. Maybe it'll clear up.
Certainly hope it will.
How much did you want today?
I'm about to have a house full of relations, so I think I'll need 3 milk and 2 cream.
3 milk and 2 of cream. And my wife told me to tell you as how we know they'll be happy. Hope they will.
Thanks, Howie. Hope she makes the wedding.
Yeah, she can. She'll get there, she can. Morning, Miss Webb.
Good morning, Mr. Newsom. I told you I needed 4 milk, but I was hoping for maybe a couple more.
Yes, I'm in 2 of cream.
Will it rain today, Howie?
Well, I was just telling Miss Gibbs how it looks like it may clear off. And my wife told me special to tell you as how we hope they'll be happy this way. No, they will.
Well, thank you, and thank Mrs. Newsom. We're counting on seeing you at the church this afternoon.
Yes, Miss Webb. Couldn't miss it. We hope to get there. Come on.
Well, Ma, the day's finally come. Losing one of your chicks.
Frank Gibbs, don't you say another word. Phil's crying every minute. Sit down and drink your coffee.
Groom's upstairs shaving himself. Only there ain't an awful lot for him to shave. Just whistling and singing like he's glad to be rid of us. Every now and then I hear him saying, "I do" in the mirror. Don't sound too convincing to me.
Frank, you're too young. I don't know how we'll get along. I've arranged his clothes and seen his hair dry and he's got warm things on. And he won't think of such things and get you death and cold within a week.
Julia, remember my wedding day.
Don't start that, Frank Gibbs.
Scariest young boy in the state of New Hampshire. Thought I'd made a mistake for sure. And when I saw you coming down the aisle, I thought you were the prettiest girl I'd ever seen. Only problem was I'd never seen you before. There I was in the Congregational Church, marrying a complete stranger.
How do you think I felt? Frank, weddings are perfectly awful things. Farces, that's what they are. But here, I made you something.
Julia Hersey, French toast.
Well, it ain't hard to make it. I did you something.
How'd you sleep, Julia?
Well, heard a lot of the hours struck off.
I get a shock every time I think of George being a family man. A great gangling thing. I tell you, Julia, there's nothing so terrifying in the world as a son. The relationship between a father and son is the strangest, awkwardest.
Well, mother-daughter's no picnic, let me tell you.
Well, they'll have their own problems. That's none of our business. Everyone has a right to their own problems.
Ah, yeah. People are meant to live 2 by 2 in this world. Say naturally you want some.
Julia, you know one of the things I was scaredest about when I married you?
Go along with you.
I thought we wouldn't have a conversation more than last us a few weeks. I thought we were going to sit here and eat our meals in silence, and that's a fact. Well, you and me been conversing here for 20 years now, without any noticeable barren spells.
Well, good weather, bad weather. Take your choice, but always find something to say. Have you heard Rebecca Stern around upstairs?
No, I haven't. Only day of the year she isn't managing everybody's business from up there. No, I get the idea she's hiding out in a room and crying.
Oh, goodness, this has got to stop. Rebecca! Rebecca, come downstairs and eat your breakfast.
Good morning, everybody. Only 4 more hours to live.
George Gibbs, where are you going?
I'm just stepping across the grass to see my girl.
Now, about your galoshes, you're not. It's raining torrents. You don't go out of this house without you being prepared for it.
Oh, Ma, it's just a step.
You'll catch a death of cold and cough all through the service.
George, do what your mother tells you.
From tomorrow on, you can kill yourself in all weathers. While you're in this house, you'll advise and thank you. You have some sweaters that used to call you such a morning. But here, take off the coffee first.
Be back in a minute. Order of the web.
Oh, good morning, George. Goodness, you frightened me. Now, you can come in a minute and stand out of the rain, but you understand I can't ask you in.
Well, why not?
Well, George knows as well as I do. The groom can't see the bride on the day of his wedding, not until he sees her in the church.
Oh, that's just a superstition. Good morning, Mr. Webb.
Good morning, George.
Mr. Webb, you don't believe in that silly superstition, do you?
There's a lot of sense in superstitions, George.
Millions of all it, George. You don't want to be the first to fly in the face of custom.
How's Emily?
Haven't heard a sound out of her yet this morning. She must still be asleep.
Emily's asleep?
Well, no wonder. We were up all hours sewing and packing. Now, George, come here, listen. This is what I'll do. Now, you sit down here and drink this cup of coffee with Mr. Webb. And I'll go upstairs and make sure that Emily doesn't come down and surprise you. Now, there's bacon too, but don't be long about it.
Well, George, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Mr. Webb, you don't believe in that silly superstition, do you? What common sense could there be in it?
Well, George, on a wedding morning, a girl's head's full of, clothes and one thing and another. Don't you think that's probably it?
Well, I've never thought of it that way.
A girl's apt to be a mite nervous on a wedding day.
Gee, I wish a person could get married without all that walking up and down.
Every man that's ever lived has felt that way, George, but hasn't been any use. It's the women folk who've built up weddings, my boy. For a while now, the women have it all their own. Yes, man looks pretty small at a wedding, George. All those beautiful women standing shoulder to shoulder, making sure the knot's tied in a mighty public way.
But you believe in it, don't you, Sweb?
Yes. Yes. Now don't misunderstand me, George. Marriage is a wonderful thing. A wonderful thing.
No, sir. Mr. Webb, how old were you when you got married?
Well, I'd been away to college, see, and I'd taken a little time to get settled down. But Mrs. Webb wasn't much older than what Emily is. Oh, age hasn't got much to do with it, George, compared with other things.
What were you going to say, Mr. Webb?
I don't know. Was I going to say something? I was remembering the other night, George, the advice my father gave me when I got married. Yes, he said to me, "Charles," he said, "start right off showing who's boss. The best thing to do is to give an order, even if it don't make any sense, just so she'll learn to obey." And then he said, if anything about her irritates you, a conversation or anything, get right up and leave the house. That'll make it clear to her. And, oh yeah, he said, never let your wife know about how much money you have. Never.
Well, I don't think I could really...
So, I took the opposite of his advice, and I've been happy ever since. So let that be a lesson to you, George. Never to ask advice of anybody on personal matters. So, are you gonna raise chickens on your farm?
What?
Are you gonna raise chickens on your farm?
Well, yes. Uncle Luke's never gone in for chickens much, but I figured I'll pick up on
George, a book came into my office on the Philo system of raising chickens. I wish you'd take a look at it. I'm thinking of beginning in a small way.
Charles Webb, are you talking about that incubator again? I was hoping that you should be talking about things worthwhile.
Well, Myrtle, if you'd like to give the boys some good advice, I'll go upstairs.
George, Emily must be down to eat her breakfast. She sent you her love, but she doesn't want to lay her eyes on you until she sees you in the church. So goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
Well, Myrtle, I guess you forgot about that older superstition.
What do you mean, Charles?
Oh, since the caveman, no bridegroom should see his father-in-law on the day of the wedding. Or near it. Now, remember that.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Webb. I'm afraid we have to interrupt here again. See, we're interested in how this wedding, this plan to spend a life together, began. Well, I'm awfully interested in how big things like that begin. You know how it is. 21, 22, make a couple of decisions, then you're 70. You've been a lawyer for 50 years. That white-haired old lady sitting across from you has shared over 50,000 meals with you. How do such things begin? Now, George and Emily are now going to share with you the conversation when they first knew that, as the saying goes, they were meant for one another. But before they do, I want you to try and remember what it was like when you were very young, particularly the days when you were first in love. You were like a person sleepwalking. You didn't quite see the street you were walking in. You didn't quite hear everything that was said to you. Will you try and remember that, please? Now, George and Emily will be coming out of school any minute now, as it's 3 o'clock. George has just been elected president of the junior class, and as this is June, that means that he'll be president of the senior class all next year. And Emily has just been elected secretary and treasurer. There they are now, coming down Main Street.
I can't, Louise. I've got to go home. Oh, Ernestine. Ernestine! Can you come over tonight and do Latin? Isn't that sister just the worst thing? Well, tell your mother you have to. Goodbye. Goodbye, Helen. Goodbye, Fred.
Hey, Emily. Can I carry your books home for you?
It's really not that far.
Hold on just a minute, Emily, will you? Hey, Bob, I'm a little late to practice. Throw Herb some long high ones.
Goodbye, Lizzie.
Oh, goodbye. I'm awfully glad you're elected too, Emily.
Thank you.
Emily, why are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you.
Well, you've been treating me so funny lately.
Oh, well, since you asked, I guess. Goodbye, Miss Cochran.
Oh, goodbye, Miss Cochran. What?
Well, I don't like this whole change that's come over you in the past year. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but I just gotta tell the truth and shame the devil.
A change? What do you mean?
Well, up until a year ago, I used to like you a lot. I used to watch you while you did everything because we'd been friends for so long. Then you started spending all of your time at baseball. You never stopped to speak to anybody anymore, George. Not to really speak. Not even to your own family you didn't. It's a fact. Ever since you got elected captain, you've gotten awful stuck up and conceited. All the girls say so. It hurts for me to hear them say it, George, but I've got to agree with them a little bit because it's true.
Why, Emily, I had no idea such a change was happening to me. I guess it's hard for a fellow not to have some faults creep into his character.
I always expect a man to be perfect. I think he should be.
Well, I don't think it's possible for a man to be perfect, Emily.
Well, my father is. And as far as I can tell, your father is. There's no reason why you shouldn't be too.
You see, I feel it's the exact opposite, that boys aren't naturally good, but girls are.
Well, you might as well know right now that I'm not perfect. It's not as easy for girls to be perfect because we're more nervous. No, I'm sorry I said all that about you, George. I don't know what made me say it.
Emily.
Now I see that it's not important. It's not the truth anyway.
Emily. 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 Would you like ice cream soda or something before you go home?
Yes. Yes, I would.
Oh, hello, Sue. Good afternoon, Miss Slocum.
Hello, George. Hello, Emily. What do you have? Why, Miss Emily Webb, what have you been crying for?
She had an awful stare, Mr. Morgan. That hardware store wagon almost ran her right over. Everyone says Tom Hunkins drives like a crazy man.
Here's a glass of water for you, Emily. You look all shook up. I tell you, you gotta look both ways before you cross Main Street today. Gets worse every year. Now, what do you have?
I'll have a strawberry phosphate, Mr. Morgan.
No, Emily. Have a soda with me.
But George,
2 strawberry ice cream sodas, Mr. Morgan.
2 strawberry ice cream sodas. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, I want to tell you that while I'm talking to you here, there are 225 horses in Grover's Corners. The state inspector was in here yesterday. Now they're bringing in all these automobiles. Best thing just to stay home. Why, I can remember when a dog used to sleep in the middle of Main Street. Nobody came along to disturb him. Here you are. Yes, Mrs. Sells, I'll be with you in a minute. What can I do for you?
They're so expensive.
Oh, no, Emily, don't think of that. We're celebrating our election. Do you know what else I'm celebrating?
No.
I'm celebrating that I've got a friend that tells me everything that ought to be told to me.
Oh, George, I wish you wouldn't think of that. I don't know
No.
what made me...
Emily, you stick to it. But you'll see. I'm gonna change so quick. You'll see. And I want to ask you a favor. Do you think when I go away to state agriculture school next year, you think you could write me a letter once in a while?
I certainly will. I certainly will, George. You know, it certainly seems like being away for 3 years, you might lose touch with things a little bit. Maybe letters from Grover's Corners wouldn't be all that interesting after a while. Grover's Corners isn't that important of a place when you think of all of New Hampshire, but I think it's a nice town.
There isn't a moment, Emily, when I wouldn't want to know everything that's happening in our town. And I know that's true.
I'll try to make my letters interesting then.
You know, whenever I meet a farmer, I always ask him if it's important to go to agriculture school to become a good farmer.
Why, George?
Yeah. And you know, some of them even say it's a waste of time. I mean, you can get all that same information in the pamphlets the government sends out. And Uncle Luke's getting old. He says I can come over and take over his farm tomorrow if I could.
Why?
And something like that could happen. Going away, meet new people in new places. I almost don't want to go away. I feel like old friends are never as good as new ones. I bet they almost never are. I feel like you're about as great as a friend as I've got, Emily, and I don't need to go away to new places and meet new people.
Well, George, what if it's very important for you to go to school and learn about cattle judging and soils and those things? Of course, I don't know.
Emily, I'm going to make a decision right now. I won't go away to state agriculture school. I'll tell Pa in the morning.
Well, George, I don't see why you have to make up your mind right now. It's a whole year away.
Emily, I'm glad you spoke to me about that fault in my character. It was mostly true, but there was one wrong thing in it. It was where you said that I wasn't noticing people. You, for instance. Why, you said you were watching me whenever I did anything. Well, I was watching you this whole time, too. I always made sure who you were with, where you were going, and 3 days now I've tried to walk home with you, but something's always got in the way. Why, just yesterday I was standing by the wall waiting for you, and you walked home with this fucker.
George, life's awful funny. How could I have known that?
Emily.
I thought...
I'm going to tell you the real reason why I'm not going to go away to agriculture school. I feel like once you found a person that you're fond of, and they're fond of you too, enough to be interested in your character, and well, I feel that's just as important as school. Maybe even more so. That's what I think.
I think it's awfully important too, George.
Emily, if I do change, do you think that I could? I mean, I think you could. I mean, maybe you'd want to. Maybe you'd want to be. Do you think you could be?
I am now. I always have been.
Well, I guess this is an important conversation we've been having.
Yes. Yeah, yes.
Wait here. I'll walk you home. Mr. Morgan, I'm going to have to go back home to get the money to pay you for these.
Why, George Gibbs, do you mean to tell me
Sir,
that you
but
can't...
I have my reasons. Here. You can keep my gold watch until I come back with money.
All right, George, keep your watch. I'll trust you.
I'll be back in 5 minutes.
I'll trust you 10 years, George, not a day over. Got all over your shock, Emily?
Yes, Mr. Morgan. There was nothing.
I'm ready. Now let's get back to the wedding. There are a lot of things to be said about a wedding. A lot of things go on during the wedding. We can't fit them all into one wedding, naturally, especially one at Grover's Corners, where they tend to be mighty short and plain. For this wedding, I played the part of the minister. It gives me the right to say a few things extra. Yes, for a while now, the play gets pretty serious. You see, some churches think that marriage is a sacrament. Now, I'm not quite sure what that means, but I can guess. It's like what Mrs. Gibbs just said a minute ago. People are made to live 2 by 2. Now, this is a good wedding. People are pretty young, but they come from a good state, and they chose right. Of course, the real hero of this scene isn't on the stage at all, and you all know who that is. It's like what one of them European fellows once said. Every time that a new child is brought into the world, it's nature's attempt to make a perfect human being. Well, we all know that nature's pretty well interested in quantity, but I think she's interested in quality, too. Maybe she's trying to make another good governor for New Hampshire. That's what Emily hopes, anyway. But don't forget the other witnesses this wedding. The ancestors. Millions of them. Most of them set out to live 2 by 2. Millions of them. Well, that's my sermon. Not very long, anyway.
I should be crying. I suppose there's something to cry about. It came over me this morning. And there she was, eating a breakfast just as she has for the past 17 years. She's going out of my house. And then she looked at me and she said, I can't eat another mouthful. And then she put her head on the table and she cried. You know, there's something downright cruel the way we send these girls into these marriages. I couldn't get myself to say anything, well, because I went into it blind as a bat myself. The whole world's wrong. That's what the matter is. Here they come.
Hey, George!
Oh, George!
Fella's scared to death.
Where is she? You don't have to look so innocent.
Oh, yeah, go, George. That's enough of that. That's enough of that. There used to be a lot of that in the olden days. Rome and later. We're more civilized now, so they say.
George, what's the matter?
Oh, Ma, I don't want to grow old. Why is everyone pushing me so?
But George, you wanted
No,
this.
Ma, listen to me.
No, George, you're a man now.
Ma, listen, for the last time I ask you. All I want to do is to be a fella.
George, if anyone should hear you now, stop it. I'm ashamed of you.
What? Where's Emily?
You gave me such a turn.
Cheer up, Ma, I'm getting married. Now, listen, Ma. Emily and I are going to come over every Thursday night. You'll see. Mom, you look all funny. What are you crying for? We gotta get ready for this.
I've never felt so alone in my whole life. And George over there, I hate him. I wish I were dead. Papa, Papa!
Emily, now don't get upset.
Oh, but Papa, darling, I don't want to get married.
Shh, Emily, everything's all right.
Oh, why can't I just stay for a while just as I am? Let's go away.
No, Emily, now stop and think of it.
Oh, don't you remember what you used to say to me all the time? I was your girl. Oh, there's got to be lots of places we could go to. I could work for you. I could keep house.
You mustn't think of such things. You're just nervous. Now you come here a minute, please. Why? Well, you're marrying the best young fellow in the world. George is a fine young fellow.
But Papa,
I'm giving away my daughter, George. Do you think you can take care of her?
Mr. Webb, I want to. I want to try. Emily, I'm gonna do my best. I love you and I need you.
well, if you love me, then help me. All I want is someone to love me.
I will, Emily. Emily, I'll try.
And I mean forever, do you hear? Forever and ever.
Come. They're waiting for us. Now you know it'll be all right. Come quick.
You, George, take this woman, Emily, your law.
Perfectly lovely wedding. Loveliest wedding I ever saw. God, I do love a good wedding, don't you? Doesn't she make a lovely bride?
You do.
Emily, you take this man, George, to your
Don't
law.
know when I've been to such a nice wedding. But I always cry. I don't know why it is, but I always cry. I guess I just like to see young people happy, don't you? I think it's lovely.
I do.
Ring. I've married over 200 couples in my day. Do I believe it? I don't know. I suppose I do. M marries N. Millions of them. The carriage, the go-kart, the afternoon drives in the Ford, the first rheumatism, grandchildren. The second rheumatism, the deathbed, the reading of the will. Once in 1,000 times, it's interesting.
What a nice couple. I don't know when I've been to such a nice wedding. I'm sure they'll be happy. I would say, happiness. That's the important thing. The important thing!
10 minutes intermission. You can go out and smoke now, those of you that smoke. This time, 9 years have gone by, friends. Summer, 1913. Gradual changes in Grover's quarters. Horses are getting rarer. Farmers coming into town down Fords. Everybody locks their house doors now at night. Nobody's seen any burglars, but everybody's heard about them. On the whole, though, you'd be surprised. Not much changes around here. This is certainly an important part of Grover's Quarters. It's on a hilltop, a windy hilltop. Lots of sky, lots of clouds, often lots of sun and moon and stars. You come up here on a fine, clear day, and you can see range on range of hills. Awful blue they are, up there by Lake Saki and Lake Winnipesaukee. You go up even further, and you can see White Mountains, Mount Washington, where Conway, North Conway is. Of course, our favorite mountain, Mount Monadnock's right here, and these towns around it. Jaffrey, North Jaffrey, and Peterborough and Dublin. And there, quite a ways down, is Grover's Quarters. Wonderful spot this. Mountain laurel, lilac. I often wonder why people want to be buried in Woodlawn or Brooklyn, when they might pass the same time here up in New Hampshire. These are the old stones, 1660, 1670. Strong-minded people who come a long way to be independent. Summers, people come up here walking around, laughing at the funny words on the tombstones. Don't do any harm. Genealogists come up from Boston, paid by city people who want to make sure that they're daughters of the American Revolution and of the Mayflower. I suppose that don't do any harm either. Over there are some Civil War veterans. Iron flags on their graves, the Hampshire boys. Had an idea the Union ought to be kept together, though they hadn't seen more than 50 miles of it themselves. All they had was the name. United States of America. The United States of America. They went and died about it. This is the new section of the cemetery. Now, there's your friend Mrs. Gibbs and Mrs. Simpson, the organist at the Congregational Church. And then Mrs. Soames, who enjoyed the wedding so, if you remember. A lot of others, too. Editor Webb's boy, Wallace, whose appendix burst while on a camping trip to Crawford Notch. Yes, a lot of sorrow is just sort of quieted down here. Why, people just wild with grief. They brought their relatives up here, and then sunny days, rainy days, snow. We all know how it is. Of course, a lot of thoughts come up here, too. Night and day, but there ain't no post office for them. Now, there are some things that we all know, but we don't take them out and look at them very often. We all know that something is eternal, and it ain't houses, and it ain't names, it ain't earth, it ain't even the stars. We all know deep down in our bones that something is eternal, and that something's got to do with human beings. Why, all the greatest people ever lived have been telling us that for 5,000 years, and yet you'd be surprised how often people are letting go of that fact. Deep down inside, there is something eternal about every human being. You know, the dead don't stay interested in us living people very long. Gradually, they let go of hold of the earth. The ambitions they had, the pleasures they felt, the things they suffered, and the people they loved. They get weaned away from the earth. That's how I put it. Weaned away. They sit here while the earth part of them burns out, burns away. They're waiting. They're waiting for something they feel is coming. Something great and important. Aren't they waiting for the eternal part of them to just come out clear? Some of the things they're going to say maybe will hurt your feelings, but that's the way it is. Mother and daughter, husband and wife, enemy and enemy, money and miser. All those terribly important things just go kind of pale around here. But what's left? What's left when memory's gone? And your identity, Mrs. Smith? Well, here are some living people anyway. There's Joe Stoddard, our undertaker, and there's Sam Craig, a Grover's Corners boy. He's come now, from back west.
Good afternoon, Joe Stoddard.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry. Do I know you?
I'm Sam Craig.
Oh, gracious sakes alive, of all people. I should have known you'd be back for the funeral. You've been away a long time, Sam.
Yes, I've been away over 12 years now. In business, out in Buffalo, Joe. But of course, when I heard of my cousin's death, I thought I'd combine things a little and see the old home. You look well.
Yes, I can't complain. It's very sad, our journey today, Sam.
Yes.
Yes, I always say, I hate to supervise when a young one is taken. They'll be here in a few minutes now. I had to come here early today. My son's supervising back at home.
Old Farmer McCarthy. Why, I used to do chores for him after school.
Yes, we brought Farmer McCarthy here a number of years ago now.
And why, this is my Aunt Julia. I'd forgotten that she'd... Of course. Of course.
Yes, Doc Gibbs lost his wife 2 to 3 years ago, about this time. And today's another bad blow for him, too.
That's my sister Carrie's boy, Sam. Sam Craig.
I'm always uncomfortable when they're around.
Simon.
Do they choose their own verses much?
It's not usual. Mainly the bereaved pick a verse.
Well, doesn't sound like my Aunt Julia. There aren't many of those Hersey sisters left now, I suppose. No, I wanted to see my mother and father's.
They're over there with the Craigs in Avenue F.
Simon Stimson. Well, he was organist at the church. Frank Locke used to say.
Nobody was supposed to know about that. He had seen a peck of trouble in his day. Took his own life, you know.
Oh, did he?
Yep, hung himself in the attic. They tried to hush it up, but of course it got around. He chose his own epitaph, you can see it right there. It ain't a verse exactly.
Like, it's just some notes of music. What is it?
Oh, I wouldn't know. It was wrote up in the Boston papers at the time.
Joe, what did she die of?
Who?
My cousin.
Oh, you didn't know? Had some trouble bringing a child into this world. Was her second, though. There's another young boy, about 4 years old.
And the grave's going to be over here.
Yes. There's not much room left for the Gibbses. They'll have to open up a whole new section over by Avenue B for the Gibbs. You'll excuse me now. I see they're coming.
Who is it, Julia?
It's my daughter-in-law, Emily Webb.
Well, I declare, the road over here must have been awful muddy. What did she die of, Julia?
In childbirth.
Childbirth. I'd almost forgotten about that. My, wasn't life awful and wonderful.
Wonderful. Was it?
Simon, now remember.
Oh, I remember Emily's wedding. Wasn't it a lovely wedding? I remember Emily reading the class poem at graduation exercises. Emily was one of the brightest girls ever graduated from high school. I heard Principal Wilkins say so time after time. I called on them at their new farm just before I died. It's a beautiful farm.
It's on the same road we lived on.
Aye, right smart house.
I've always liked that hymn. I was hoping they'd sing a hymn.
Hello. Hello, Emily.
Hello, Miss Gibbs.
Hello, Mother Gibbs.
Emily,
Hello. It's raining.
yes, dear. Just rest yourself. We'll be gone soon.
Feels as if I knew him 1,000 years ago. Papa, remember that was my favorite hymn. Oh, I wish I'd been here longer. I don't like being new here. Mother Gibbs, George and I turned that farm into just the best place you ever saw. Thought of you all the time. We wanted to show you the new barn and the great long cement drinking fountain for the stock. Bought that out of the money that you left us.
I did?
Yes, Mother Gibbs. The legacy that you left us. It was over $350.
Oh, yes, Emily.
Well, there's a patent device on the drinking fountain so it never overflows and it never sinks below a certain point either. It's fine. It won't be the same to George without me, but it's a lovely farm. Live people don't understand, do they?
No, dear. Not very much.
They're sort of shut up in little boxes. It feels as if I knew him 1,000 years ago. My little boy spending the day at Mrs. McCarthy's. Mr. McCarthy, my little boy spending the day at your house.
Is he?
Yes, he loves it there. Mother Gibbs, we have a Ford too. Never gives any trouble. I don't drive though. Mother Gibbs, when does this feeling go away of being one of them? How long does it?
Dear. Just wait and be patient.
Look, Father Gibbs is bringing some of my flowers to your grave. He looks just like George, doesn't he? Oh, Mother Gibbs. I never realized before how troubled and how in the dark live persons are. Oh, look at it. I love them so. From morning till night, that's all they are. Trouble.
A little cooler than it was.
That rain's cooled it off a little.
My, those northeast winds always do the same thing, don't they? Change to rain, it's a 3-day blow. But Mother Gibbs, one can go back. One can go back there into living. I know it. I feel it. Why, just for a moment I was thinking about the farm, and for a moment I was there. My baby was on my lap as plain as day.
Why, Emily, of course you can.
Oh, I can go back there and live all those days over again. Why not?
All I can say is, Emily, don't.
But it's true, isn't it? I can go back there and live again.
Yes, some have tried, but they soon come back here.
Don't do it, Emily.
Emily, don't. It's not what you think it'd be.
It's something that I must know for myself. I would live over a sad day. I'll choose a happy one.
No. At least she's an unimportant day. She's the least important day of your life. And it will be important enough.
Then, can't be since the baby was born. Not since I've been married. I can choose a birthday at least, can't I? I choose my 12th birthday.
All right. February 11th, 1899. You want any particular time of day?
Oh,
Start at dawn. Remember that been snowing for a few days beforehand. They had started clearing the roads the night before. Oh yeah, dawn's coming. Sun's coming up.
oh, there's Main Street. There's Mr. Morgan's drugstore where we changed it. In the livery stable.
Yes, it's 1899. It's 14 years ago.
It's the town that I knew as a little girl. There's that old white fence that used to be around our house. I'd forgotten that. I loved it so. Are they inside?
Yes. Your mother will be coming down any minute to get a breakfast.
Will she?
And you remember your father had been away for a few days, so he caught the early morning train back.
No.
Yes, he'd been out to his college in Western New York to make a speech at Clinton.
Look, there's Howie Newsom. There's our policeman, but he's dead. He died.
Morning, Bill.
Morning, Howie.
You up early?
Ah, yes, I was sent to rescue a party. Darn near froze to death they was. Down by Polish Town. Drank it. Laid out in the snowdrifts. When I woke him, he thought he was in bed.
There's Joe Crow. Good morning, Mr. Warren. Good morning, Howie.
Morning, Jeff.
Children, Wally, Emily, time to get up.
How young Mama looks. I didn't know Mama was ever that young.
Now you can come and dress by the fire if you like, but hurry. Good morning, Miss Newsom.
Morning, Miss Webb.
It's cold.
Yep, 10 below my phone.
Think of it. Keep yourself wrapped up.
Come on, Bessie. Get up.
Mama, I can't find my blue hair ribbon anywhere!
Just open your eyes, dear, that's all. I laid it out for you special on the dresser. If it were a snake, it'd bite you.
Yes. Yes.
Good morning, Bill.
Morning, Mr. Webb. You're up early.
Yeah, it's just been back from old town, college town in New York State. I've been in any trouble while I was gone.
Sent to rescue a Polish fella. Darn near froze to death he was.
We must get it in the papers.
Twice much.
Hello, Mother.
How did it go, Charles?
Fine, I guess. I told him a few things. Everything all right here?
Yes, nothing happened special that I can remember. Been right cold, though. Howie Newsom says it's down to 10 below over at his barn.
Yes, well, I told him that up in Hamilton College. Students' ears have fallen off. It ain't Christian. Paper have any mistakes?
None that I noticed. Coffee's ready when you want it, Charles. Oh, and don't forget, it's Emily's birthday. Did you get her anything?
Yes, I've got something here. Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
Oh, Charles, don't interrupt her now. She's slow enough as it is. You can see her at breakfast. Children, hurry up! 7 o'clock. I don't want to call you again.
They're so young and beautiful. Oh, why did they ever have to get old? Mama, I'm here. I love you all, everything. I can't look at everything hard enough. Good morning, Mama.
Oh, good morning to my girl, and happy birthday and many happy returns. There are surprises waiting for you on the kitchen table.
Well, Mama, you shouldn't have.
Now, birthday or no birthday, I want you to eat your breakfast good and slow. I want you to grow up and be a good, strong girl.
I can't.
Now, that's the blue papers from your Aunt Carrie. And I reckon you can guess who brought that postcard album. George Gibbs. Come over early in the cold and bring it to you. Quite nice of him.
Oh, George. I'd forgotten that.
Now chew that bacon good and slow. It'll keep you warm on a cold day.
Oh, Mama, won't you look at me one moment and know you really saw me? Mama, 14 years have gone by. I'm dead. I married George Gibbs, Mama. Your grandmother, Mama.
you would like it. Your Aunt Nora couldn't find it anywhere in Concord, so she had to send for it all the way to Boston. Oh, and Wally made something for you too at manual training class. Now, he's very proud of it, so make sure you make a good fuss. Oh, your father has something for you too, but I'm not sure what it is. Shh! Here he comes, here he comes!
Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
I can't go on. It goes too fast. We don't have time to look at one another. I never realized that all this was going on and we had no idea. Oh, take me back. Up the hill, my grave. But wait. One last look. Goodbye, world. Goodbye, Grover Schooners. Mama. Papa. By the clock's ticking and my button had tree. Mama's sunflowers. Food and hot coffee. Warm baths. By to sleep and to waking up. Oh, Earth. You're too wonderful for anyone to realize it. Do live people ever understand life while they live it? Every minute.
No. Saints. And poets, maybe. They do some.
I'm ready to go back.
Well, were you happy?
No. I should have listened to you. That's all human beings are. Just blind people.
Emily, look. It's clearing up. The stars are coming out.
Oh, Mr. Stimson. I should have listened to them.
Yes. Now you know. Now you know what it was to be alive. To walk around in a cloud of ignorance. To go up and down, trampling on the feelings of those about you. To spend and waste time so you had 1,000,000 years. Now you know. That was the happy existence you wanted to go back to. Ignorance, blindness.
Now, Simon, that ain't the whole truth, and you know it. And we look at that star. I forget its name.
My boy Joel was a sailor, knew 'em all. He'd sit on the porch evenings and tell 'em all by name. Yes, sir, wonderful.
Stars, mighty good company.
Yes. Yes, 'tis.
There's one of them coming.
That's funny. It ain't no time for him to be here.
For goodness sakes.
Mother Gibbs. It's George, dear. It's George.
And my Joel, who knew the stars, he used to say it took millions of years just for that little speck of light to get down to Earth. Doesn't seem like a body could believe it, but that's what he used to say. Millions of years.
Goodness, that ain't no way to behave.
He ought to be home.
Mother Gibbs,
Yes, Emily?
they don't understand, do they?
No, dear. They don't understand.
Most everybody's asleep in Grover's Corners. There are a few lights on. Shorty Hawkins has just watched the Albany train go by. And down at the livery stable, there are a couple of people sitting up late and talking. Yes, it's clearing up. There are the stars, doing their old crisscross in the sky. Scholars haven't settled the matter yet, but they seem to think that there are no living beings up there. Only chalk, fire, only this one, straining away all the time to make something of itself. Strain so great that every 16 hours everybody gets to lie down and take a rest. It's 11 o'clock in Grover's Corners. Most everybody's resting in Grover's Corners. Tomorrow's going to be another day. You get a good rest too. Good night.
I don't normally do this, but we had a little overlap in the schedule this year, and I didn't get an opportunity to give out an award. I typically give out a thespian award to the freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior for that year, and this year the seniors were going to be gone when I give out that award, and so I needed to do it at a time when this person would be around and there'd be a crowd to watch. So the Senior Thespian Award, this is like a Tony Award, so this is for performance excellence. So this year's Senior Thespian Award for outstanding performance in a theatrical production goes to Chandler Darnell.
I'd like to begin with some of the moms who put in a lot of time and effort to help us look really good with costumes. So can we have Ms. Stinger please come up?
Okay, so can we have Miss Freeman please come up? Just like one of our supporting moms, and she helps out so much with baking for us and just doing the sweetest things so we can have these things for us. So thank you for that.
Mrs. Daisier. We even made last-minute runs for some little costume accessories, and we couldn't thank her enough. So
Yeah. Okay, so I have a card for Mr. Cooper, and Mr. Cooper is the teacher, wherever he is. He was back here a minute ago. Mr. Cooper. There he is. The boy with the fantastic beard is actually a teacher. And he kind of stepped in the last minute and then memorized a whole bunch of lines and came to rehearsal and amped up with a whole bunch of this very squirrely high school cast. So
we also want to thank Ms. Martinez. This is her first time working with us, and we loved it. It's fun, and it will be a picture in here, but we don't have it quite yet. But thank you.
I'd like to thank someone who does a lot of behind-the-scenes work. And you may have noticed her around, but just because you've seen her doing some work, that doesn't mean that you've got any idea the scale of what she's doing. And she's right over there filming us right now. Miss Kay, come down here and get some flowers.
Another person we'd like to thank, with Big Hand for, especially with all the furniture that was suspended above your heads for the entirety of the show, helping us out backstage and all sorts of things like that. I'd like to thank Mr. Simmons.
Okay, lastly, we would like to thank the man who has put all of this in motion. He's done incredible amounts of things for us. Me especially, I would not be here if he had not given me a chance to, or last year. He just means the world to me, and I know to everybody on this stage. Cannot thank him enough for everything that he's done for us, dealing with us on the one hand, and then giving us this art that we can express ourselves through and just be the best that we can. So, Mr. Broyles.
Seniors, come over here. I just want to say, this is, these guys were fifth graders when I first got here. And I don't know if I can do this. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, how much I appreciate your leadership during the show through the years. Some of you have been in a few more plays than others. Lila, since 2005. And in short order, you're going to be my peers because you're going to be graduating from college. And it's the best compliment one artist can give to another is that I would love to work with you anytime. So God bless you.